What's up YouTube? I'm back in the still standing garage, and in this video we're going to start working on the header panel and some miscellaneous pieces. I'm also going to repair the gouges that I found on the bumpers. I'm going to put some glaze on those, and then when I spray all these pieces over here with some primer, I'm going to go ahead and spray the areas that I repaired on those bumpers. So the header panel here has plastic dip in it, or on it. I applied it years back, so I got to remove that. And then the corner piece on the driver's side has plastic dip as well. So this one right here has plastic dip. Got to remove that as well. And then I got to clean all these up. I primered them a long time ago. I know the primer is pretty good, but I still want to clean them up and sand them again. And then in the back piece over here, this is the piece that goes behind the window, the back window. You see how the paint right there, I didn't sand it good enough, I guess, when I did it the first time. So we're going to take care of everything and we're going to knock it out. So let's get this video going. Let's go. Alright, so I took apart everything that I could off of the pieces. I did remove as much as I could of the plastic dip on the header panel here. I am going to take all these pieces outside to wash them, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit those areas, these pockets here where the headlights go and the corner lights on both sides. Oh, and the bottom down here. I'm going to hit it with some Goo Gone, and then we're going to wash them, see if that comes off, because I know that plastic dip there is very thin, so I'm not going to be able to pull it off as good as I did the rest of it, as you guys saw. Oh, and the rubber pieces that go on the license plate holder, these right here, I was trying to take them off in one piece, but they're so hard and brittle that they actually ripped apart. So I am going to go on eBay and see if I can find those so I can replace those. These license plate lights, they came off pretty easy. I found another pair in my glove box of the Monte over there. I guess I bought a pair a long time ago. So back in the day, I always used to go to the junkyard, and whatever I could find that was extra, let's say for the Regal or the Monte Carlo, I always got it, I always bought it. Good thing I did that, because now these parts are becoming rare and they're very hard to find, and if you do find them, they are getting expensive. Alright YouTube, so I already hit all the parts with soap and water, washed them up, and now they're all dry. The header panel is the first one I'm going to start working on. So the Goo Gone did remove all the plastic dip that was in there, and these pockets here, all this here, if you can hear it, it's a little rough because of the overspray that I have on here. There's different primers on there. There's a black and gray primer on there, so I'm gonna clean those up, but the plastic dip is gone. I'm gonna go ahead and apply a guide coat on the header panel here to identify any chips, because when I was removing the plastic dip, I did notice that there was a few here and there, but I want to make sure I get all of them. I'm gonna use this guide coat here, and then we're gonna go ahead and apply it, start block sanding with some 320, and then I'm gonna start moving on to all the other little pieces here, start handling those with some 320. I'm not gonna guide coat all these pieces because I think they're okay, they're all right. Once I identify all those chips on the header panel here, I'm gonna go ahead and hit them with some glaze. So let's get this going. Let's go. Alright YouTube, so it's time to start addressing the little gouges on these bumpers. The ones that I identified after I primered these on the last video. I want to make sure I take care of them. And with some glaze, I'm going to put some Evercoat Polyflex glaze on these areas like this. So I'm going to go through both bumpers and make sure I get all of them. And I'm going to scuff those areas with 320 sandpaper and then hit it with the glaze. The other pieces, all those little pieces you guys just saw, they're all completely sanded. They're all ready for primer. So I do want to hit all these pieces at the same time, bumpers and all, with primer. And then we should be ready to move on to the rest of the car to get that ready for some paint. Let's go. Another thing I want to show you guys too is I started sanding, and as I was hitting all the spots that I want to hit with glaze, I started sanding these areas right here. This is where on the last video I showed it where there was a few runs. So they started cracking because there was so much primer and such a small area. So I started sanding these right now too, so that way I could hit those with some primer as well. So I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. There was a really big run up here. Brought that down, and then same thing right there. You see that crack. Hopefully it comes out good on the camera, but see how it's cracking? It was too much primer all in one spot. So I'm hitting those areas right now so that way I could take care of them now that I'm gonna spray again. So you see that right there, and then all this right here. So I'm gonna hit it, try to even it out, and then we should be good. I just wanted to show you guys that real quick. It was a mistake by me. Just wanted to share that. Let's go. Alright YouTube, so I added that glaze on all these areas. I still have a couple more that I need to add to, but I'm going to use a different glaze. So this glaze that I use here is the flexible glaze. And the reason I mix that is because this area here is a little bit bigger than the rest of the areas. And then the leftover that I had, that's what I started using on the smaller spots with my finger. But now it started kicking on me, so it got a little hard, and that's why this one kind of came out a little rough. So I still need to hit a couple more areas like these right here. But since these are a lot smaller, I'm going to hit them with some of this glazing spot putty. So I'm going to hit those with that. And then I'm going to start, making sure that I got everything good. I'll check the rest of it. I know I already scuffed it up to be ready. So I just wanted to show you guys that I'm going to be using a different one just because these are smaller. So they're not going to flex. Such a tiny area, it's not going to flex so much. So I should be all right. Let's go. Alright YouTube, so I already hit up all these areas that I glazed up with 320 grit. They're nice and sanded down, all these small areas here. But one thing that I was researching is, do I need to actually add some 2K primer on all these areas before I actually start laying some base coat? But since I am going to be using an epoxy primer as a sealer right before base, I am going to be okay. So I am not going to primer these little areas like I was planning to, which is a good thing. You know, I'm not trying to take shortcuts or anything. I'm just trying to do the best way, or figure out the best way to do this without jeopardizing the actual panels and you know, paint flaking off and all that stuff. You know, the one thing that we all hate. You know, all these areas are done. So I am going to put them off to the side, and I'm not going to primer those areas. I'm going to get these ready for primer, so I'm going to set them up so that way I can start cleaning them off, and then get this header panel back on the stand, and then we can start cleaning that one up as well, and then we can start laying some primer. Let's go. All right, so all the pieces are hit with wax and grease remover. They're cleaned off. I did tack them off. All of them are tacked off. I did have to put some of this sheeting on around the foam on the stand here, because the old paint that was on there was flaking off as I was blowing off the pieces, and I don't want any of that old paint flakes on these pieces, obviously, right? We want to clean. So I did put tape all around here so that way it stays put, it doesn't move on me. The other pieces, I didn't want to put them on the stand here because it was going to take up too much room, and I needed the room to obviously spray in there and get everything right. I did hang them over here on the garage door rail. I am going to take them off with one hand and then spray them with the other. These are cleaned off as well and tacked off. They're ready to go. So let me show you the primer I'm going to use, and let's start the mixing. So this is the primer I'm going to be using. I have a little bit left, so I'm going to use that. Hopefully it gets me around 3 coats. That's what I want to apply on all these pieces. Have the activator here. I have my 1.7 tip on there. I do have to put my gauge on there, but let's get the mixing. Let's go. All right, YouTube, so there it is. I laid 3 coats on all the pieces. Everything turned out pretty good. It's still a little grainy because it's still drying. You can see that right there. Still a little grainy on all the pieces. They're exactly the same, but it turned out pretty good. It sprayed out good. I had one issue over here on the header panel. I tapped it with the cup of the gun as I was trying to hit this piece here from the back. The piece was actually further out, so it was like more like over here. And I was trying to hit it, and when I backed up, I hit the header panel here. So you can see that right there. So the good thing is I am going to block the header panel. I'm going to guy coat it and block it, in a couple of days when it dries. So, that's a mistake. It is what it is. Got to live with it. Got to correct it. So this is why I didn't want to have all the pieces all on the stand. And that's why I hung them on the rail over here. But other than that, everything else turned out good. Primer sprayed out nice. I've sprayed this primer before. Never had any issues with it. When it does spray grainy, or it looks kind of orange peely. And then once it dries, it looks real flat. You see that right there? It looks real grainy. So from what I remember, when I sprayed it on the car, the hood, and all those other pieces, I let it sit for a day, and then they flattened out. So that's what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna let the pieces sit, and then the only one that I'm gonna block is gonna be the header panel. Other than that, the rest of them are ready to go. And then as I was spraying, I remembered I actually lied to you guys in the beginning of the video where I said that it was the header panel and miscellaneous pieces, and these were it for prep. But the mirrors, forgot about the mirrors. I have the mirrors. Most likely it's inside of the car or the trunk, but I gotta look for them. I know I have them. I'm hoping they don't have any damage. I don't remember them having any damage. All right, it's been a few days already since I sprayed these pieces with the primer. So I'm gonna move everything around so I can start working on the header panel. I am gonna spray it with some Geico real quick, and that way I can start block sanding it with 320 grit. I'm only gonna do like the top pieces here. I'm not gonna spray anything inside of there. I'm gonna do like a little bit here. I don't have that much, so hopefully it gets me enough. I wanna do the front right here. Oh, that's all. Let's get that going. Let's get it moving. Right, so the header panel is completely blocked down. Why shouldn't I say completely blocked down? Because I didn't sand this area here. This is where the grill goes, so I'm okay with that area not being blocked. Same thing with here. I didn't block or sand any of this. I am gonna mask this off when I primer it again, because I with the 2 or 3 coats that I put in here, it's fine. I should be all right, and then I could just prep it later on for actual paint. Over here, the area where I hit it with the cup of the gun, it actually blocked out. It's gone. It's ready to go. So everything else turned out pretty good. There's a couple areas that I went into the bottom of it, but it's all right. Everything's good. I'm gonna hit it with 2 more coats of primer. There is this area here, this one right here. The guide coat stayed under, so that tells me that's a low spot. So I am gonna hit this with 180 grit to give the glaze something to bite onto. I know the glaze says that it's okay to prep with, I think 320 being the finest sandpaper, but I feel more comfortable with 180 grit being on there and then putting the glaze on top of that. So I am going to do that right now. And then this area too, I didn't sand it. Everything else got sanded. Hit it with the round bar here and all these radiuses here. And then everything else was blocked with the little block. And then I like how this primer actually sands, because I only use one piece of sandpaper here. I know it's not that much area on the header panel, but still, I'm still surprised, that primer sounds really nice. And only one piece on that. And then I did use one piece on the round bar to hit all those radiuses. So I just wanted to let you guys know that this primer sounds really good. So let's get it going. I'm going to go ahead and mix up that glaze right now. I'll show you what glaze I'm using, and then we're going to start spreading it. so there it is. That area is nice and blocked out. It's nice and flat now, ready to go. I did go ahead and mask off all these pockets, all the areas that I don't want overspray on. So they're ready to go. It's a little bit of overkill, but I actually enjoy masking a lot more than sanding. I'll tell you that. So I could have got away with a little bit of overspray in there. I mean, but it's all good because I'm only going to spray up here. I'm not going to spray down here, even though I went down to the fiberglass in some areas, like that right there, that white. That's actually the fiberglass. But since I am planning on using an epoxy as a sealer right before I base it, I should be all right with those areas. I did sand over here, down here, but I'm not going to primer that because like I said, I'm only going to hit the top. I'm going to go this way, and then we're going to hit those areas there. All I got to do now is hit it with some wax and grease remover, tack it off, and then we get the spraying. Let's go. All right, so I already hit the whole header panel with the wax and grease remover. I also hit it with the tack cloth and some air. It's ready to be sprayed. I got the gun over here all set up and the primer mixed up. Let's start spraying. Let's go. All right, YouTube, so there it is. I hit the whole header panel with 2 coats of that primer. Sprayed out really nice and flat. It's already flashing off, drying off. It looks really, really nice. I like the way it came out. I only mixed up a little bit of primer. I wasn't expecting to have any left over after the second coat, but I did. So what I ended up doing is I hit those areas that I said I wasn't going to hit on this side as well. Hit that down there, and then the side over here. So this header panel is ready to go. What I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put it back on the car so I could do the final sanding with the whole car. All these other pieces that I primered in this video, I'm not going to put them back on the car, but that's going to be in a future video. So check those out when those come out. Let's keep it moving. Let's go.